Hey guys, it's Britt, and I just posted like a thread on Twitter, but I kind of wanted to talk about it here just because now I'm coherent and I've finished my coffee and maybe I can get my point across further, or maybe it will reach a wider audience. I'm not sure. But I wanted to talk about the importance of reading nonfiction. Now, I prior to this year, I never read fiction. I never read nonfiction. Only if I had to for school. And I think that's a big problem. I used to dismiss it as boring and just something that I associated with school, so I didn't want to touch it. But there are things that I love that are based off real life events. Like, for example, Game of Thrones. That's based off the Wars of the Roses and a lot of other historical events that happened. That Game of Thrones generated an interest, and that interest led to a work of fiction. Now, George R. R. Martin is very, 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 very into history, and it shows in his work. And now that I've started to actually research the Wars of the Roses in preparation for reading one of the many The Wars of the Roses books, I've learned a lot. And I think it's so, so, so important for other people to do the same. Okay, so this conversation kind of started going in my head when I was talking to my brother, who just happens to be transgender. And my brother, we were talking about the some fictional works that that have transgender characters. For example, a few years back, we both read I Am J. I can't remember the author's name, but I will link them down below. And that was written by somebody that wasn't transgender. And while they had a lot of experiences with transgendered teens and transgender people, at the end of the day, it was still this cisgendered person writing a fictional book that was essentially about a love story that featured a trans character, and that was the selling point. I think that we are even okay, so even if it's own voices, like for example, If I Was Your Girl, that's circulating booktube right now, and I think that's great. I think that's fantastic that it's circulating, that there's a trans author, everybody involved is trans, right? Okay, but at the end of the day, Amanda is still a fictional character. And I think if you're using this to learn about trans experiences, you're not going to actually learn anything. Because she's still fictional. No matter how real she may feel, and it's great that maybe a girl can see herself in Amanda, and that's fantastic. But we forget that these stories have a history. They have a history, and we need to read that history before we go into these works of fiction, so we can differentiate what is a work of fiction and what isn't a work of fiction. My brother, he's 17 years old, and he just started college, and he's having a great time, but he's also really disappointed in what he sees in like our little booktube community. Now he's not a reader, but when I talk to him about these things, he gets really disheartened, because people are always saying, "Oh, I want to read more diverse. I want to learn about these things," and we're reaching for these works of fiction to learn, to educate ourselves. And I think that's a big, huge problem, because it's fiction. No matter who wrote it, it's still fiction. And I think we need to actually read, maybe, if you want to actually educate yourself, you should pick up maybe a biography or an autobiography. I can list a few in the description below, maybe, if I remember. But read history if you want to learn more about the history. For example, okay, going back to Game of Thrones, because that's really what I know and what I can really speak about. Game of Thrones. Alright, there's this one character named Theon Greyjoy. Now, Theon Greyjoy, who is played by the immensely talented Alfie Allen, is still played by Alfie Allen. Alfie is not Theon. That's huge. That is huge. Alfie is not Theon. Theon is played by Alfie. Now, when Theon is put in these dreadful, dreadful situations, like with his captor, Ramsay Bolton, who is this terrible, terrible human being, Alfie isn't actually experiencing those things. He is 100% safe because he is on a set. At the end of the day, he is an actor portraying somebody who is experiencing Stockholm Syndrome. Alfie has done a lot of research, and a lot of thinking, and he's a fantastic, fantastic actor. And I think he does the story of Theon a lot of justice, but at the end of the day, Theon's character is still fictional. Alfie himself has never actually experienced something like Stockholm Syndrome. And while I find parallels in Alfie's portrayal and Theon's character, he still doesn't know what it's like. You know what I mean? He's done research and he's fantastic, but he's never experienced it. So we need to turn to these works of fiction. And if you really like the Battle of the Bastards, that set, and how Ramsay had the shield wall and everything, that was based on an actual event. Like, that was actually used in warfare, and I think that's so cool. That is so cool. See, these works of fiction are based off nonfiction. And it's great that it generates interest. But we need to read more non-fiction, is essentially what I'm trying to say. So in 2017, I am definitely going to be reading more non-fiction books. I don't know if they'll all be this. I hope they're not all about the same subject. I'm sure they won't be, but I really, really, really want to try. And I'm glad that I had this conversation with my brother, because that really turned the light bulb on in my head. And this video is getting kind of long, so I'll see you guys in the next video. Love you.